Let's shift gears to what was my top story for over 2.5 hours, or right at 2.5 hours, of the daily radio show. Get teleprompter free, folks. I'm going to stumble sometimes. Actually using the old noggin, not stuff the CIA writes and I read off a teleprompter. Think about this. We supposedly live in the freest country in the world, and we have 7+ million people in the prison system, double what China has with 1.3 million people. They have 1.3 billion people. We have 310 million people in our country. The most wealthy, powerful country in the world, because we had basic liberty. It created incredible wealth. Now we've been taken over by the globalist parasites, and China, who has 1.3 billion people, has half the prisoners the United States has with 310 million. They've got like 9 times our population, roughly, and they have half the prisoners we have. This is not freedom. The CIA admitting they're spying on us without warrants and operating domestically illegally. That's not freedom. Street lights going up nationwide with your taxpayer money to listen to you and watch you, and the system saying, yeah, we're watching you and listening to you, better shut up. Banning free speech and protests in Chicago because the globalists are coming to town. That's not freedom. TSA sticking their hands down your pants. IRS taking houses without warrants or due process or real courts or proof for the Federal Reserve. Fraud. Banks taking people's houses when they fully own them without deeds. Total fraud. We're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in the Republic anymore. People go, well, don't bash America. I'm not. I want to get our Republic back. And to do that, we've got to admit just how serious things have gotten, just how hardcore things are. Now, I was supposed to be in a debate this morning with Tucker Carlson on the radio at 7 a.m. on a syndicated radio show, Bubba the Love Sponge. And I was watching videos on InfoWars and got so upset when I saw this first video of a little girl, 3 years old, healthy and happy in videos, and like a Skeletor concentration camp victim with pus coming out of her eyes and black teeth and totally skinny after CPS grabbed her for no reason. This is in Houston. This is on Fox News, and put her on antipsychotic drugs that literally eat your brain. I got so upset that I didn't even do I just forgot about the debate and went, you know, I already knew about all this. I already know they drug over 2/3 of foster children, kill thousands a year just in Texas alone. There's been WOAI TV investigations, but nothing's ever done. The Texas Youth Commission, they had public rapings where people went and paid at the CPS facilities to rape small children. That all came out 5 years ago. Nobody got in trouble for that. And all this stuff's just flashing back all over the country. 3,400 kids missing, CNN reported in Florida. Many of them found dead in CPS custody. I mean, all flying them out of the country to Saudi Arabia. Again, there's so much evil, I can't keep track of it all. And so I see this, and it's like a flashback. It's like post-traumatic. I'm being hit with all this stuff, and I go, okay, I'm going to cover this today, but I just can't show this Fox News video out of Houston. I've got to go show them some of the background. So I start sending stories to the guys about them taking little kids and testing pesticides and radiation on them a few years ago. This isn't going on in the 50s till they die. And U.S. troops being put in chambers to be nerve gassed and murdered. And I'm thinking, my God, this government is so criminal. How did I ever deny to myself just how out of control this is? I'm not hardcore enough. I'm not doing enough. And it just kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. That we live in a crazy Twilight Zone episode. But I mean, Hitler killing tens of millions, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro, it goes on and on. This is the norm with these scum we let get in control and do what they say, because in our evolutionary development, or whatever you want to call it, we do what the leader says. We believe the chief wants the tribe to survive. That was the case 10,000 years ago. It's not the case today. And we've got to grow up and realize this. I mean, you look at the stuff that Hitler and Mao and them did. I mean, it's like, why would Mao kill 60+ million people in just a few years? Because he could. He did all these evil things to get into power so he could do that. A psychopath that kills a few hundred when they're just a general is going to kill 1 million when he gets in charge. Don't you understand that? They do it because they like it. They do it because they enjoy it. They're like, Jeffrey Dahmer, why'd you kidnap little kids and torture them and inject them in the brain to make them sex zombies? He's because I like it. Ted Bundy, why'd you do that? John Wayne Gacy, why'd you do that? Because I like it. Why'd you grab teenagers and torture them and kill them? Because I like to. They're just psychos that get in control, and they hire other psychos and create these giant colony creature guilds against us. Good people have to get together. See, good people are not joiners. We're not looking for power. We just want to be happy and good. We're not malfunctioning. We're not cancer cells. But what happens on the low level, the small microscopic level, happens on the giant level. And so as a globe with the skin of life growing on the surface of it in this thin atmosphere, the planisphere does have a cancer. The globalists are always saying humanity's a cancer, it needs to be killed. They're actually the cancer. The tiny group of elite are malfunctioning and keeping the human destiny from fully reaching its potential. They are the cancer. They act just like it. A normal person who doesn't have degenerate programming is like, you want to wear black uniforms and beat people and spy on folks and have big martial parades and give each other awards all day? I don't want that. That's because you're normal. But for them, it's beautiful. Do you understand that? And so I saw this report we're going to get to at the end of this where they grab people because the parents smoke marijuana or whatever. And you know when you go in to get a medical procedure now, they do a blood test. They don't tell you have a right to remain silent without a warrant for getting your blood. It's all through the health departments that were eugenics departments set up in 1910, 1915, depending on the city, depending on the state, where they're all spying on you. That's when you have a baby, you got plenty of money, you doing all right? Oh, we're making ends meet, coming for your kids. Because you're poor now. See, they want your kid. They're hunting you. They're after you. This is the system. Now, conservative estimates of the 1 million+ children grabbed a year, over 50,000 nationwide end up dying in government custody. We've got the numbers up in articles at Infowars.com. Now, just bad drug interactions are over 100,000 a year, the government admits. 69% or over 2/3 are put on psychotropics, an average of 7, including antipsychotics that cause permanent brain damage. And you see these children, I mean, they kill them. Once they start having the convulsions after 7 drugs, then they put them on anticonvulsants. They know in actuaries it's going to kill a large percentage. They then even take insurance policies out in the government on them, like Walmart does with those greeters. Oh, it's so nice. They hire the old lady. You wonder why she looks like she's about to die. They know in actuaries the payout. They can put a couple mil on her. The family never even knows about it. And when she dies while she's working with them, they take the insurance. Oh, you thought they hired the 81-year-old lady who looks like she's about to die on a cane to say hi to you? She's there to die to make them some insurance cash. Oh, but they're cold-blooded. See, you're not ready to wake up to the full horror, so you're not going to be able to resist them. Knowing is half the battle. The devil's greatest trick was he didn't exist. So I'm sorry this is so hardcore, but this is the facts. Now, first I thought we would, before we get into all this evidence of the current stuff, Bayer Core Science, Crop Life America, human pesticide testing policy. And I first learned about this 6 years ago in a New York Daily News article that's been taken down now, but we have it saved at Infowars.com, where they were taking little black kids, I mean, and others, but mainly blacks, and testing pesticides on foster children until they died. And the little kids would try to escape, one 7-year-old, and they strapped him down and gave him the pesticides and killed him. And the CPS workers had a moment of clarity and came out and said, we're not going to do this, and tattled. They got fired. The killing continues. So there is that report. I can show you a document cam shot of that. And Bayer Core Science plotted human pesticide testing policy. And because when this came out in 2005, they were killing people with pesticides. They tried to get a law passed or a policy passed that they could do that, and we have links. Just type in foster children pesticide, you'll get all the mainstream news. But they're like, oh, it was kind of not nice to kill them, but they did. Nobody gets in trouble. Okay. Here's another one. This is Associated Press, saved at Infowars.com. It's part of the First Amendment to defend us against tyranny. Feds tested AIDS drugs on foster kids, lethal ones. You know, it's the AIDS drugs mainly killing people. These are like hardcore, basically chemotherapy drugs. Again, this all broke in 2005. The rabbit hole went very, very deep. This is Organic Consumers Association alert EPA to allow pesticide testing on orphans and mentally handicapped children. Again, that's after they got caught, like when Bush got caught spying without warrants or torturing, which was illegal. He tried to then get it legalized. Remember, that's standard policy, so there's the Associated Press. Here's the Israel Insider we have saved. In my film Endgame, we have local Israeli newscasts. 110,000 children were radiated. Over 40,000 of them died. They give them different dosages. The U.S. paid for this. They would take the brown-skinned Sephardic, not the Ashkenazi, and radiate them to death. murdering them, many of them on the spot. They'd actually cook them onto the table. And don't worry, I've got, just Department of Energy admits, from the 40s through the 80s, now it's all secret, radiating children. They put little babies, foster babies, in these basters and hit them with such high-powered radiation that in some of these reports they would actually be cooked onto the metal. That's nice government, though. They wouldn't stage 9/11. Everything is fine. And again, Government Employees Union tell EPA don't expose kids to pesticide experiments. And that's peer.org. EPA scientists, you can go read that in press releases. Actually, EPA scientists have come out 3 separate times, 90+% of them, thousands signing doctors, chemists, you name it, saying don't put sodium fluoride in the water. Causes cancer, but you know what? They're not going to stop because they love killing you too much. Here it is, WOAI. We saved this at the time. That's why we save it. It's down now. 2 out of 3 foster children in Texas on psychotropic medication. A doctor in the system here, we played the newscast at the time, went public and said, yeah, I've seen kids come in totally healthy, and within 6 months, they're on 7 drugs. Within a year, they're on anti-convulsion drugs, and then they die. So because they get more money when they make them special needs. And if you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you cry for mommy when they take you into a big, dirty facility with all these other kids raping you, 7 times more likely to be sexually abused, Justice Department's own numbers, in CPS care, 7 times more likely to get an STD, 5 times more likely to be generally abused. When you come out, 5 times more likely to end up ending up in prison. Unless you become a CPS worker. The weird thing is a lot of them become CPS workers because it's part of the pedophile network they're now part of. So we've got a guest audience today. Aaron's mom's here today. I'm afraid she's hearing a particularly hardcore show. But you're down from Houston way, aren't you? You're down in Sugar Land. Right by you in Houston's one of their main kidnapping facilities. Good to see you, though. Good. We have the in-game video. Before we go to more articles, let me just show you. When we were exposing this in 07, and I had medical doctors and others on, people like Dr. Breeding he's a psychologist, were at the state hearings. He said, you need to go dig it up. I was there. There should be an online video. The head of the state board, the head psychiatrist said, yeah, we do have 2/3 of the kids on psychotropics. Suzanne Hupp, representative, you know, she survived the Luby shooting. She said, hey, 2/3 are on these drugs and they're dying from them. And how do you just take little kids and put them on drugs that aren't even approved for people, you know, under the age of 10? And he goes, they come from bad gene pools. A eugenics answer. So let's go to a clip from Endgame. When I was in the movie theater and first showed Endgame, people laughed. And then I showed more articles, London Guardian, where they drug the woman to get the baby, and it's drugs that cause brain damage. 3 U.S. states have been doing it for 5 years. Oregon was the first. And now England's doing it. And at birth, they put cameras in many of the homes now of parents in a pre-crime. And if you do anything wrong, they go throw them in a big dirty dungeon with pedophiles. I'm not kidding. Again, this is what's all going on under everybody's nose. My words cannot describe to you what I've personally seen fighting these people. And I'll be honest, it was so horrific that I had to quit or I would have become violent. I had to quit going and physically looking at them, because when you're in a room with a bunch of them laughing with a crying family for no reason, and the kid's crying and they're getting off on it, and you can tell they're taking the kid off to rape them, let me tell you something. I mean, let me tell you this, and by the way, if this is freaking you out, it should. This is going on everywhere right now. Over 1 million kids they get. And they always have ads and TV, oh, this was a bad parent beating their kid. There are bad parents, but they're many times more likely to be abused by the system. You understand? Statistically, it's a no-brainer. 5 to 7 times better off getting rid of the CPS entirely. In the old days, if somebody saw somebody really hurt their kid, there were criminal charges. Or in the old days, if your neighbor saw you really hurting your kid, you come over, hey, Bill, you shouldn't be doing that. You got a problem at work? You want to do that? Do that to me. And that's what it's come down to. The state is a bunch of scum. And look, all the literature, they say they got bad gene pools. Eugenics never went away. You know, that's what Hitler did. He got it from the U.S. and England. 35 states, if you made less than a B+ in school, they sterilized you. In game, I have copies of the newsreels and the report cards. Have you forgotten all this? See, they don't tell you this on the news, folks. That's why this show is so valuable. That's why I've gotten so angry and aggressive. Because refocusing on this, literally, I feel like I could kick the butt of about 20 people right now. And that's my normal instinct when children are being hurt by a saber-toothed tiger or by a tribe that's invaded your area, it's time to stomp and go after some people. That's a normal instinct. How did you lose your normal instinct that when you hear a baby squeal, whether it's a bear or whatever, our ancestors killed cave bears twice the size of grizzlies with their bare hands and with spears. Our ancestors defeated all of what nature challenged them with our minds and our guts. And now look what we've become. We let our own species do this to us. I don't know what's wrong with you out there, but it's time to get angry. It's time to recognize the enemy. And it's time to come after them in the info war, to identify them as the criminal guilds they are. And it's time to ask God to lead us and guide us and direct us in the prosecution of the war against these people. Like I said last week, their genocide against us starts now. We're fighting back. The war has begun. And when they kill us and shut us down and persecute us, it only makes us stronger. We're drawing the enemy out. How can you sit there and worry about your reputation and your career while they're raping kids right now? And those kids are begging for help, just like Kelly Thomas begging for his daddy as a full-grown man as the wolves tortured him to death. None of us are safe until we stand up. What is wrong with you? I know, sodium fluoride, massive brainwashing, it doesn't matter. You still got the human destiny in you. You still got the instincts, and they can override all that right now. My problem is I got even more here. Look at this. Texas foster care investigation. Child as young as 3 are drugged with antipsychotics. Folks, you can't even give these unless it's state-approved to psychotic people because they eat your brain. We got that report. And here's the one that sent me back down the rabbit hole of looking at all this information. 3-year-old CPS are overprescribed psychotic drugs. Overprescribed? They're not even approved in people under 10. Antipsychotics, under 5, they don't care. Hundreds of thousands are on it. Over 2/3, they take little kids, and when you cry, the big fat demons, they don't feel like raping them, which is most of them. They just sit there and warehouse them. And it's, I got articles where they're drowning all the time, being killed, being raped, being sold into sex slavery. CNN reported like 5 years ago, 3,000 plus missing kids in Florida. When they started finding them with their heads chopped off in different countries and in graves, the story just went away. I mean, the big thing is they fly these little kids out and torture them and rape them. And I'm bad because I don't like that? I'm bad because I still got red blood and will face the reality? I'm bad? No, you're bad out there making jokes about this. Let me tell you, those that serve this evil consciously are one thing, and they're going to get theirs. But those of you that think all this is funny, let me tell you, that's why you're so miserable and cursed. Let me tell you, you will be brought to justice one way or another. I know it, okay? I have total certainty. In fact, okay, let's just stop right there. You've got a compilation of videos, don't you, There's so many. Let's go to a compilation. You can watch the whole thing at MyFox. 3-year-olds and CPS care overprescribed psychiatric drugs. Is like, oh, the robber overprescribed bullets he shot into the child's body. He shot him 50 times. He only should have shot the child 5 times. You know, or you know, the robber only hacked the child up with you know, should have hit him with a hatchet 6 times instead of 45 times. Let's go to a compilation of these. I've always told you, I mean, I've seen the CPS. It's either fat, pot-bellied, little skinny mustache pedophile archetype men. That's a small drone sect. It's mainly giant fat women. Half the brigades are black. Another 40% are white brigade of pot-bellied women, giant people. I mean, I'm not bashing fat people, just it's always the same. I've fought these people. They always gibber, giggle, love it when families cry, suck up the pain. Well, they're psychic vampires, what they are. They're psychic vampires. And, of course, these demons are going to wonder why they get cancer when they're 42. I mean, in fact, I can tell you right now, these women, you enjoy your life because you've got an express elevator to hell, okay? But that's who these people are. Yeah, it's faces of death. And again, nothing against people that are fat from all the poison GMOs, the rest of it, Lord knows I've been. I'm saying I've never seen a CPS worker that didn't look like a brain bug from Starship Troopers, okay? And I mean, that's all I've got to say. And that's because it's a spiritual thing. And again, I've been in the courts. The enjoyment that they get is incredible. Let's go to the faces of death, what they do to a little girl. I know I shouldn't talk bad about them because they're the little girl they keep grabbing because the mommy got tested positive for marijuana or whatever. you know, no criminal record, kid's fine, this is what you do to them. And then you put the kid on a bunch of drugs and turn him into a drooling zombie. Let's go to the crimes against little girls right now.
Here's a picture of Rachel that was taken 1 week before CPS took custody of her. Here she is in January after 6 months in CPS's care.
Well, every time we'd go to see her at visitation,
she was skinnier.
She would get skinny and she'd, you know, just be lethargic, not wanting to move, not wanting to say hi, and just sort of sit in the corner and just keep to herself.
Not even play.
And that's not her.
She would be drooling at the mouth, her tongue would be hanging out, and I asked them, I said, is she on drugs? They said no.
But in a January court hearing, CPS admitted that the then 3-year-old was put on a number of psychotropic drugs, including risperidone, a drug commonly used to treat schizophrenia. They take her away.
That is the face of the New World Order. Suffer the little children, lest you be thrown into the deepest ocean with a millstone tied around your neck. And to watch how those women, CPS workers, laugh when they destroy families, they really enjoy the pain. It makes them feel big and powerful. And they are the abusers. Statistically, they are the most dangerous group out there is the CPS. Let's just run through some more here. There's just too much. CPS involved in child trafficking, and it goes through people speaking out about state-sponsored kidnapping of her daughter. Amazing information. Continuing with other news, CPS warrior Nancy Schaefer gunned down. Associated Press, she'd called me a week before and said, in a few weeks, I'm going to come on your show. I have evidence, she's state senator in Georgia at the time, a few years ago, that they do have lists and they do have quotas and they're picking up kids for these rich families. And her and her husband committed suicide with firearms that weekend. Anybody believe that? Got a bridge I am ready to sell you on Pluto. Here is a clip of the late senator clearly murdered by a mafia hit team because she wanted to cut in on their child trafficking operations.
For 4 years, I have been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services, and an update and copies are out on the table. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in Child Protective Services. The Adoption and the Safe Families Act, set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. Some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. The National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later.
She committed suicide with her husband a few weeks after that, and she called me. She said, I want to come on the next week. I've got the proof. This is incredible. Well, they knew you had the proof, honey, but you're in a better place than they're going. That lady was so great. She was really hurting him in Georgia. I mean, she was really exposing him. All the kids they were killing and hurting and drugging, and they went over and they murdered her and her husband, something fierce. If they ever come to my house and kill me and my family, no, it's a lie. Gary Webb sent me a disc, and I wasn't very good at websites. You know, when he got killed, I had InfoWars, but it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. They said, can you make a website with all these documents? I want to put this on, and I never even got around to it. And, that stuff was all public. It was this Pulitzer Prize-winning research. So don't send a hit team to kill me because you think I have some secret dossier. But he had a new book coming out to vindicate himself. And hell, now they grow the opium publicly in Afghanistan. And he had told myself and others, including Silica Still and Ricky Ross, guys have been breaking in his house, you name it, he'd moved. He'd seen special forces types coming off his roof, going right down the drain pipes like in movies. And they came to his house, had him sign a letter that he was going to kill himself, and then shot him twice in the head. It looks like at the end he struggled because they blew his jaw off and then shot him in the back of the head. And within minutes of the announcement, oh, it was suicide. It's always when you know it's staged. Breitbart, he had a heart attack. Minutes after we heard he was at the hospital. Just don't ask questions. About to release the fact that, you know, Obama was meeting with communists and Bill Ayers and others, and you're dead. We're so high profile they haven't killed me yet. But, I mean, it's like they're torturing kids everywhere. How am I supposed to be afraid of being killed? I mean, it's like no-brainer. If you saw a gang of thugs beating a 5-year-old, I mean, most women I know, they saw 5 big men beating a 5-year-old. Most women I know would charge in and try to defend the child. What has happened to us as a society? I mean, we've got to face these people and damn the maneuvers. Go straight at them. I mean, this is not a debate anymore. Or just give up your humanity and roll over so you can watch TV and eat and have fun and go on a vacation. And people are like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll do that. Really? That's what life's about, is about being a big sack of crap? I mean, is that what it's really all about? It's being a mindless coward that just buys into a false reality and plays into what the controllers think while they hurt children? Well, fine. There's always a bunch of couch potatoes in history. Not me and not our viewers and listeners and compatriots, comrades, those that love liberty, men, women of every race, color, creed, and religion out there. We're coming straight on to the New World Order, and we're not backing down. We're taking them down. That's the end of it. No amount of scientific propaganda or fluoride's going to help you, New World Order. We're going to get you, and you know it. That's why you're scared. You're not arrogant like you were a few years ago. You're throwing it all in our face right now to acclimate us. And let me tell you something, you chicken-neck globalist psychologist, it ain't working, okay? I see you, and I see exactly what you are. You look like your last year's guacamole bowl. I see exactly what you are, and you look like the portrait of Mr. Gray. You look like a dead horse. All right. Here's one out of KLTV. 4-year-old drowns while in foster care. And I see these reports where they go, all the children will die. It's just the way it is in CPS care. Kids becoming nobody's children. Hillsborough, Florida, 9-year-old autistic girl went missing Saturday afternoon, according to Hillsborough County Sheriffs. She was autistic. Yeah, well, they find them in graves all the time. Doesn't matter. Because it's the government. You know, nobody's going to watch them. Father harassed by CPS for feeding kids organic food. Oh, yeah, they take vegans' kids all the time, too. Just any reason. There's no law. They just say, hey, it's all over the news. Police pull you over now, and even if you got $100 in your wallet, they take it. That's drug money. That's drug money right there. I'm going to take that from you right now. Roscoe Pico Train. I wish we had Roscoe Pico Train. He was a nice guy compared to this. Judge orders parents to vaccinate baby. That's in Australia. Brisbane Times, that's also happening here. There's no law, but they're a eugenics court. They're not a real court with due process. There's no jury here. Just some pervert judge. Continuing, a pediatrician calls state trooper Child Protective Services on mother for refusing to vaccinate child. Another report right there. That's just some of what's going on, and they are killing thousands of kids a year. It is a Holocaust. They are murdering them en masse. And are you their champion? Will you stand for them? Will you defend them? Will you not watch the baseball game tonight? Will you not go act tough with your buddies and walk out with tattoos? I'm not saying your tattoos are bad, but you know what I mean? And act tough at the bar and look at your motorcycle. I'm tough. And if you're like, so what? They're killing some kids. I'm going to go see my girlfriend and act tough. Okay. Now you're aiding and abetting it. Now you're part of it. Because that's why I'm here. I'm here to make sure you were told and had a choice. Feel that little tingle back of your neck? That's your soul getting in the elevator to go straight to hell. You don't believe in hell? Your dark energy is going to go somewhere. And it sure isn't going to go towards the light, is it? I don't care what religion you are. There's good and evil, ladies and gentlemen. And you will pay. You're like, oh, I don't believe in religion, spirits. We're on a planet going through space here. You looked around you. Magic's all around you, ladies and gentlemen. This whole life is a test. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And I'm not going to even sit here and talk about it. But let me tell you something. This stuff's real. Devil went down to Georgia. That's real. It's all real.